The medical station floated in the cold darkness above Velar Prime. It was a place of healing, but also a place where the dying came when no one else could help them. Had worked here for 12 years. She had seen every kind of wound. She had watched species from 100 different worlds fight for their lives on her operating tables. Some lived. Many did not, but she had never seen anything like the human. They brought him in on a salvage ship. The crew had found wreckage drifting near the outer rim, an old Earth vessel, broken apart by some unknown disaster. Most of the ship was empty. The crew was long dead, their bodies lost to the vacuum of space. But in the cargo hold, buried under twisted metal and frozen debris, they found a single cryogenic pod still running on emergency power. Inside was a human male. Stood in the examination room and looked at him through the frosted glass. He was young, or at least he had been young when he went to sleep. His face was pale and peaceful. His dark hair was cut short in the military style that humans preferred. According to the damaged records they had recovered, his name was Cole. He was a lieutenant, part of a crew that had left Earth over 40 years ago during humanity's first attempts at deep space travel. 40 years. The thought made his chest feel tight. This man had been sleeping while entire civilizations rose and fell, while wars were fought and peace was made, while humanity spread across the stars and became one of the galaxy's members. He had missed all of it. "Can you wake him?" asked Commander, the station's senior officer. He stood behind her with his arms crossed, his face showing no emotion. Checked the readings again. The pod was functioning, but something was wrong. The human's vital signs were there: faint heartbeat, minimal brain activity, body temperature holding steady, but they were not responding to the revival protocols. She had tried 3 different methods already. None of them worked. "His body is alive," she said slowly, "but it is like his mind is somewhere else. I cannot reach him." "Then he is dead." No turned to face the commander. Dead means no heartbeat. Dead means no brain activity. He has both. He is alive, Commander. He is just stuck. Made a sound of annoyance. The Council will not approve resources for a human who cannot be saved. You know how they feel about Earth's people. Knew very well. They had watched humanity's rise with suspicion. Humans were young, loud, and reckless. They bred quickly and spread even quicker. They fought wars over ideas instead of territory. They cried at music and laughed at death. To the ancient races of the galaxy, humans were confusing at best and dangerous at worst. But had always been curious about them. She had read their literature, studied their medicine, learned their languages. Unlike her own people, who lived for centuries and moved through life with careful patience, humans burned bright and fast. They packed more living into 80 years than it did in 800. "Give me time," she said. "Let me study him. Perhaps I can find a way." Looked at her for a long moment, then he shook his head. "You have 30 days. After that, the Council will decide his fate." He left without another word, turned back to the pod and placed her hand against the glass. "What are you dreaming about, Cole?" she whispered. The days passed quickly. Spent every spare moment with the sleeping human. She ran tests. She analyzed his blood, his cells, his neural patterns. She brought in specialists from other worlds, but none of them could explain why he would not wake. His body was perfect. The cryogenic process had preserved him exactly as he had been on the day he went to sleep, but his mind was another matter. The neural scans showed activity, dreams, memories, something. But it was locked away behind a wall that no technology could break. On the 15th day, made a discovery. She was reviewing the brain scans when she noticed a pattern. Every few hours, the neural activity would spike briefly, like a signal trying to break through static. She compared it to human medical records and found a match. Hope. The pattern matched the neural signature of human hope, that strange emotion that humans clung to even when logic said there was no reason. Even in his frozen sleep, Cole was hopping. For what, she did not know. But he was holding on to something, refusing to let go. felt tears in her eyes. She had never cried for a patient before, did not cry easily, but something about this fragile human, fighting alone in the darkness of his own mind, broke through her defenses. "You are still in there," she said softly. "You are still fighting." On the 28th day, the council made their decision, stood in the great chamber and listened as they announced that the human was to be moved to the Hall of the Fallen, a memorial vault where the bodies of lost travelers were kept. It was a kind gesture, they said, a way to honor a species they did not understand. But heard the truth behind their words. They were giving up. They were going to put Cole in a cold room and forget about him. She stepped forward before she could stop herself. "I request custody of the human." The chamber went silent. Every eye turned to her. "On what grounds?" asked the eldest council member. His mind raced. She needed a reason they could not refuse. And then she remembered something from her studies, an old law nearly forgotten from the early days of her people. "Cultural research," she said. "Humans are new to the galaxy. We know little about their physiology or their minds. This man represents a unique opportunity to study them. I request permission to continue my research in private." The council members looked at each other. There were whispers, arguments, shaking heads, but in the end they could not deny a request made in the name of science. "Granted," the eldest said. "But understand this, healer. He is your responsibility now. Whatever happens to him, you will answer for it." Bowed her head. "I understand." That night she moved Pod to her private quarters. She set it up near the window where the light of distant stars could reach him. She did not know if it mattered. She did not know if he could sense anything at all. But she sat beside him anyway, and she began to talk. "My name is," she said. "I am going to find a way to bring you home, Cole, I promise you that." In the silence of the room, his heart continued to beat. Slow, steady, waiting. 6 months passed and learned everything she could about humans. She read their history, stories of wars and peace, of great leaders and terrible tyrants, of ordinary people doing extraordinary things. She studied their art and found it strange and beautiful. Humans painted sunsets even though they had seen thousands of them. They wrote songs about love even though love caused them pain. They built monuments to people who had been dead for centuries, just so they would not be forgotten. Most of all, she studied their biology. Humans were fragile compared to other species. They could not survive extreme temperatures. They needed constant food and water. Their bodies broke easily and healed slowly. By all logic, they should have gone extinct long before they ever reached the stars. But they had not. Against every odd, humanity had survived, and began to understand why. It was hope. That strange neural pattern she had seen in his brain was not just an emotion, it was a survival mechanism. Humans could convince themselves that tomorrow would be better, even when all evidence said otherwise. They could keep fighting when any reasonable creature would surrender. They could love someone they had never met, believe in ideas they could not prove, and die for causes that would only benefit people they would never know. It was irrational, it was beautiful, and it was keeping Cole alive. Every day, sat beside his pod and talked to him. She told him about her world, about the politics of the council, about the small details of her daily life. She did not know if he could hear her, but the neural scans showed that his brain responded when she spoke. The patterns of hope grew stronger. She started bringing him things. Human music played softly through speakers near his pod, the smell of coffee which humans apparently loved, recordings of Earth, waves crashing on beaches, birds singing in forests, children laughing in playgrounds. Each one produced a tiny spike in his brain activity. He was listening. She was sure of it now. Somewhere deep inside his frozen mind, Cole was holding on. But not everyone was happy about her research. The knock on her door came late one evening. Opened it to find 2 members of the council guard standing outside. Between them was a bureaucrat she recognized, a man who had never hidden his dislike of humans. Healer, he said with a thin smile, may we come in? She had no choice but to let them enter. They walked around her quarters, looking at the pod, at the human inside, at all the equipment she had gathered. Impressive, said. You have invested a great deal of time in this creature. He is not a creature, he is a person. He is a human, said the word like it was something dirty. And humans are becoming a problem, Healer. Surely you have seen the news. They expand too fast. They make demands. They do not know their place in the galaxy. Kept her face calm. What does this have to do with my research? The Council has received complaints. Some feel that keeping a human here, even a sleeping one, sends the wrong message. We should not appear too friendly to Earth's people. Not now, when tensions are high. He is in a coma. He is not a political symbol. Smile grew wider. Everything is political, Healer. Surely you know that. He stepped closer to the pod and looked down at its peaceful face. The Council has decided to revoke your custody. The human will be transferred to a secure facility where he can be properly handled. His heart went cold. What does that mean? It means his stasis will be terminated. Humanely, of course, but terminated. You are going to kill him. We are going to end a hopeless situation. Turned back to her. You have 3 days to prepare the transfer. I suggest you use them to accept reality, Healer. Some things cannot be saved. After they left, sat in the darkness for a long time. Her hands were shaking. Her mind was racing. She could not let them take him. She could not let them kill a man who was still fighting to live. But what could she do? She was just a healer. She had no power, no influence, no way to fight the Council's decision. Unless... The thought came to her slowly, like light creeping over the horizon. There was one law that even the Council could not break. It was old, almost forgotten, from a time when her people valued bonds above politics. The right of bonded claim. Among a bonded partnership was sacred. If two people declared themselves bonded, if they made the vows and signed the contracts, then they became one legal entity. No government could separate them. No council could claim one without the other's consent. It was meant for couples who loved each other. It was not meant for a healer and a sleeping stranger. But the law said nothing about love. It only required a declaration and a signature. His hand stopped shaking. She stood up and walked to the communication panel. Elder, she said when the connection opened, I need your help. The elder arrived within the hour. She was ancient even by standards, her skin pale as paper, her eyes still sharp with intelligence. She listened as explained the situation. You want to bond with a human, said when she finished. A human who may never wake. I want to protect him. The bonding is permanent, child. If he wakes, you will be tied to him. If he dies, you will carry that loss forever. Are you prepared for that? Looked at the pod, at the man inside, at the faint pulse of his heartbeat on the monitor. He held on for 40 years, she said quietly. Alone in the dark with nothing but hope, I think the least I can do is hold on for him. Studied her for a long moment. Then she smiled, a sad, knowing smile. Very well, let us begin. The ceremony was simple, spoke the ancient words. She signed her name beside a blank space where signature should have been, witnessed it all and recorded it in the sacred records. When it was done, was legally married to a man she had never spoken with. The next morning, arrived with his guards to collect the human. Met them at the door with a copy of the bonding contract in her hand. He is my husband, she said. Under the right of bonded claim, you cannot take him without my consent, and I do not consent. His face turned red with anger. This is a trick, a manipulation of sacred law. The law does not ask for reasons, only for signatures, and I have signed. There was nothing he could do. The guards looked uncomfortable. Even they would not violate a bonding claim. This is not over, hissed. You have made enemies today, healer. I know, said, but he is still alive. That is all that matters. After they left, she returned to his side. She took his cold hand through the opening in the pod and held it gently. "I hope you don't mind," she whispered, "but it seems we are married now." His neural patterns pulsed softly in response. She smiled through her tears and held on. 3 years passed like water flowing through her fingers. Continued her work at the medical station, but her true life happened in the quiet hours. Every morning before her shift, she sat with and told him about the day ahead. Every evening when she returned, she told him everything that had happened. She read to him human poetry, human stories, human philosophy. She played him music and watched his neural patterns dance in response. She knew it was strange. Her colleagues whispered about her behind her back. Her family sent worried messages, asking if she had lost her mind. Even Elder visited sometimes, watching with sad eyes. "You are wasting your life on a ghost," her mother said during one of their rare conversations. "He is not a ghost, he is my husband. A husband who cannot speak to you, cannot touch you, cannot love you." Ended the call and did not answer when her mother tried again. The truth was, she had stopped thinking of as a patient long ago. She knew his face better than her own. She knew the small scar on his chin, the way his hair fell across his forehead, the slight curve of his lips that almost looked like a smile. She knew his dreams too, in a way, the neural patterns that came and went, the emotions that flickered through his sleeping mind. He dreamed of Earth. She was sure of it. The scans showed activity that matched descriptions of human homesickness, longing, love. He dreamed of sunlight and green grass and the faces of people he had lost. He dreamed of a home that had moved on without him. And through it all, he kept hopping. Began to research human emotions more deeply. She found something fascinating in the old Earth archives, stories of people waking from comas after hearing loved ones speak. Scientists called it the power of emotional connection. The human brain, it seemed, could be reached through the heart. But she was not his loved one. She was a stranger who had claimed him to save his life. What could she possibly say that would reach him? She said it anyway. Night after night, she talked to him about everything, about her childhood on Velar Prime, about her dreams of exploring the stars, about the first time she saw a human ship in orbit and wondered what kind of beings lived inside. She told him her fears, her hopes, her secrets. She told him things she had never told anyone. And slowly something changed. His neural activity began to strengthen. The spikes of hope came more often. Sometimes, when she spoke, she could see his eyes moving beneath his closed lids, the sign of dreams, of a mind reaching toward consciousness. He was getting closer, she could feel it. But he could not cross the final barrier alone. On the 3rd anniversary of their bonding, Elder came to visit. She sat in the chair beside Pod and watched work. "You have kept him alive longer than anyone thought possible," said. "The council has stopped asking about him. They have accepted that you will not give him up." "I will never give him up." Nodded slowly. "I know. That is why I have come to tell you something. Something about our people's bonding ritual that you may not understand." Stopped what she was doing and turned to face the elder. "When our ancestors created the bonding ceremony," said, "it was not just a legal contract. It was a spiritual one. The words you spoke, the signature you made, those were only the beginning. The bond is not truly complete until there is a transfer of life energy between partners." "I know that, but cannot participate. He is asleep." "He cannot initiate, no, but you can." Eyes were gentle but serious. "Among our people, life energy is transferred through physical connection, a touch, a breath, a kiss. If you were to kiss him, truly kiss him with the intention of completing the bond, you would give him a piece of yourself. Your energy would flow into him, filling the emptiness that keeps him trapped." His heart began to beat faster. "Are you saying I could wake him?" "I am saying it is possible. Human physiology is different from ours, but life energy is life energy. Your essence might be enough to pull him back from wherever he is lost." "Then why did you not tell me this before?" was quiet for a moment. Because there is a cost. The transfer is not small. You would be giving him part of your own life force, your strength, your years, your very being. If it works, you will be bound to him forever. Not just legally, but spiritually. His pain will be your pain. His joy will be your joy. You will never be complete without him again. And if it fails, then you will have weakened yourself for nothing, and he may drag you down with him into the darkness. Turned back to look at. His face was calm, peaceful, beautiful in its stillness. For 3 years she had talked to him, cared for him, loved him in her own quiet way. The thought of losing him now was unbearable. But the thought of what might go wrong was terrifying. "I need to think," she said. Stood and placed a hand on her shoulder. "Of course, but do not think too long, child. The galaxy is changing. Tensions between humans and other species grow worse every day. If war comes, the Council may decide that keeping a human here is too dangerous, bonding or no bonding. You may not have as much time as you think." After the elder left, sat in the darkness and watched heartbeat on the monitor. Slow, steady, patient. She thought about everything she had learned about humans. Their ability to hope when hope was irrational. Their willingness to fight when fighting was pointless. Their strange, beautiful belief that love was worth any risk. She thought about the man inside the pod. A soldier who had gone to sleep expecting to wake up in a few weeks. A dreamer who had been lost in darkness for 40 years. A stranger who had become the most important person in her life. She reached out and touched the glass. "I am afraid," she whispered. "I am afraid that I will fail you. I am afraid that I will lose myself. I am afraid of what happens next, no matter what I choose." The monitor beeped softly. His brain activity spiked, a pattern she recognized. Hoping. Even now, even in the deepest sleep, he was hopping. For her, for rescue, for a future he could not see but still believed in. Felt tears running down her face. "How do you do it?" she asked. "How do you keep believing when everything says you should stop?" There was no answer, there never was, but somehow in the silence she found her own. Humans did not hope because it was logical. They hoped because it was human. They loved because they were human. They fought impossible battles and believed impossible things because being human meant never accepting that anything was truly impossible. And she had fallen in love with one. Wiped her tears and straightened her shoulders. "All right, Cole," she said. "I have waited long enough, and so have you." She would do it, tomorrow or the next day or whenever she found the courage. She would kiss him, and she would find out if love could wake the dead. But as she prepared for bed that night, she did not know that time was running out faster than she thought. Far across the station, a message was arriving from the Council. And it would change everything. The alarm woke her in the middle of the night. Jumped out of bed, her heart's pounding. The station's emergency lights were flashing red. Through her window, she could see ships approaching, not medical ships but military ones. Council warships, their weapons already powered. Her communication panel lit up with an incoming message. It was from Elder, and her face was pale with fear. "They found a way around the bonding law," said quickly. "Convince the court that your marriage is invalid because never consented. They are coming to take him. They will be at your door within the hour." They cannot do this. They are doing it. The political situation with Earth has gotten worse. There was an incident at one of the border stations, humans and fighting. People died. The Council wants to send a message that we will not tolerate human presence in our space. Is going to be that message. Felt cold spread through her body. What are they going to do to him? Looked away. They are going to end his stasis publicly. Show the galaxy that even sleeping humans are not safe here. I am so sorry, child. I tried to stop it. I failed. The connection ended. Stood frozen for a moment, her mind refusing to accept what she had just heard. Then she moved. She ran to Spod and began disconnecting it from the station's power grid. Her hands were shaking, but she forced them to work. She would take him somewhere safe. She would find a ship, a place to hide, anything. But she was too slow. The door exploded inward. Council guards poured into her quarters, their weapons raised. Behind them came, his thin face twisted with satisfaction. "Healer," he said, "step away from the human." "No. This is not a request. The court has ruled. Your so-called marriage is void. The human is now property of the council." Put herself between the guards and Spod. "He is a person. You cannot treat him like property. He is a political tool, and you are a fool who threw away her life for a creature that was never going to wake up." Nodded to his guards. "Remove her." 2 guards grabbed S's arms. She struggled, but they were stronger. They dragged her away from the pod while others moved in to disconnect it. "You are monsters," she screamed. "He is alive. He is still in there. You are going to murder an innocent man." "We are going to end a problem," said calmly, "and teach humans that they do not belong here." One of the guards reached for the pod's controls. In a few seconds, he would begin the termination sequence, would die without ever opening his eyes, without ever knowing that someone had loved him, without ever getting the chance to see the stars again. Felt something break inside her. She had spent 3 years being careful, being patient, being afraid, but fear had gotten her nowhere. It was time to be human. She twisted in the guard's grip with strength she did not know she had. She kicked one in the knee and heard something crack. The other lost his hold when she drove her elbow into his face. Before anyone could react, she was running. She reached the pod just as the guard touched the controls. She shoved him aside and threw herself over the glass lid, protecting it with her body. "Kill me if you want," she gasped, "but you will have to go through me to get to him." His face darkened. "So be it. Guards, remove her by whatever means necessary." The guards advanced, knew she had seconds at most. This was it. This was her only chance. She opened the pod. Cold air rushed out, making her gasp. Frost covered his face, his chest, his hands. He looked like a statue carved from ice, beautiful and still and lost. She cupped his face in her hands. The cold burned her skin, but she did not care. "I do not know if you can hear me," she whispered. "I do not know if this will work, but you taught me something, Cole. You taught me that humans carry hope like it is a weapon, so I am going to hope now, for both of us." A guard grabbed her shoulder. She kissed him. The world went white. Felt herself falling, falling, falling into endless darkness. She could not feel her body. She could not hear the guards or the alarms. There was only cold and silence and the terrifying sense that she had made a terrible mistake. Then she felt him. A warmth, faint but real, rising from somewhere deep in the darkness. A heartbeat growing stronger. A mind reaching toward hers like a drowning man reaching for the surface. She poured everything she had into that connection. Her strength, her hope, her love. She felt herself growing weaker, felt pieces of herself flowing into him, and she did not care. She would give him everything if it meant he would live. "Please," she thought, "please wake up. Please come back, please." His hand moved. She felt it against her arm, fingers twitching, then gripping, then holding on with desperate strength. His chest rose as he took his first breath in 42 years. His eyes opened. They were blue, deep, beautiful blue, like the oceans of Earth she had seen in pictures. He looked at her with confusion, fear, wonder. His lips moved, trying to form words. His voice came out as a rasp. Who are you?" Was crying. She was laughing. She was weaker than she had ever been in her life, and she had never felt more alive. "I am your wife," she said, "and we need to run." Behind her, the guards had frozen in shock, was staring with his mouth open. No one moved. No one seemed to know what to do. Looked past her at the armed soldiers, at the flashing lights, at the chaos all around them. And something changed in his face. The confusion faded. The fear disappeared. What replaced it was something had never seen before, something wild and fierce and utterly human. He sat up in the pod. His muscles should have been weak from decades of sleep, but his body seemed to be running on something beyond muscle. Adrenaline, the humans called it, the survival drug that their species had evolved to produce in moments of danger. "How many?" he asked. 12 guards, more coming." He nodded once. Then he stood up, swaying slightly but staying on his feet. He looked at the nearest guard and smiled. It was not a friendly smile. "My name is Lieutenant Cole of the Earth Exploration Corps," he said. His voice was still rough, but it carried across the room. "And I have been asleep for a very long time, so I would appreciate it if you would get out of my wife's home." Found his voice. "This changes nothing. You are still our prisoner. Guards, take them both." The first guard who reached for ended up on the floor. The second followed a moment later, moved like nothing had ever seen, fast, efficient, brutal. He did not fight like a soldier. He fought like a force of nature. Within minutes, the room was clear, had fled. The guards who were still conscious were groaning on the floor. Turned back too. He was breathing hard and she could see the exhaustion in his eyes. The adrenaline was wearing off. "You said we need to run," he said. "I am guessing you have a plan." She smiled at him, the first real smile she had given anyone in 3 years. "I do now." She took his hand, and together they ran toward the shuttle bay. Behind them, the alarms kept screaming. But neither of them looked back. The shuttle was small and old, meant for short trips between stations. It was not designed for running from military warships, but it was all they had. Flew while sat in the co-pilot seat, staring out at the stars with an expression she could not read. The warships were behind them, but they were not firing. Not yet. Perhaps they were too shocked. Perhaps they were waiting for orders. Either way was not going to waste the opportunity. "There is a neutral station at the edge of this sector," she said. "If we can reach it, the Council has no authority there. We will be safe." Did not respond right away. He was still looking at the stars, his blue eyes reflecting the distant light. 42 years, he said softly. "That is what you told me. I have been asleep for 42 years. "Yes. My family, my friends, my crew, they are all gone. I am sorry, I am so sorry." He was quiet for a long moment, watched him from the corner of her eye, waiting for him to break, waiting for the grief to overwhelm him the way it would overwhelm anyone who had just lost everything they knew. But he did not break. He took a deep breath, let it out slowly, and turned to face her. "You saved my life," he said. "You married me to protect me. You talked to me for years while I was sleeping. You gave up part of yourself to wake me up. Is all of that true?" "Yes." "Why?" Kept her eyes on the controls. "Because you would not give up. Every scan said you were gone, but your heart kept beating. Every doctor said it was hopeless, but your mind kept hopping. I could not walk away from someone who fought that hard to live. So you fought for me instead." "Yes." Reached out and took her hand. His fingers were warm now, not cold like they had been in the pod. She could feel his pulse, steady and strong. "Thank you," he said simply. Behind them, the warships had started moving again. Warning signals began flashing on the control panel. They were being targeted. Studied the display for a moment. Then he pointed to a cluster of asteroids on the scanner. "Can you fly through there?" "It would be dangerous. The rocks are unstable." He smiled, that same wild smile he had given the guards before the fight. "Dangerous for them too, right? And their ships are bigger, harder to navigate." "Understood." She changed course and headed for the asteroids. The next few minutes were terrifying. Rocks spun past them, some close enough to scrape the hull. The shuttle shook and groaned, but had spent 12 years on a medical station in space. She knew how to fly in difficult conditions. The warships tried to follow, but was right. Their large vessels could not fit through the narrow gaps. One of them clipped an asteroid and fell back damaged. The others gave up the chase. When they finally emerged on the other side, the neutral station was visible ahead of them. Let out a breath she did not know she had been holding. "We made it," she said. Squeezed her hand. "We made it." The station was called Haven. It was a place for refugees, travelers, and anyone who did not fit into the neat categories of galactic politics. Humans and aliens lived side by side here, trading stories and goods without caring about the wars being fought elsewhere. News of their escape spread quickly. A human woken from death by an alien healer's kiss. A marriage that governments. A chase through asteroid fields. It was the kind of story that people loved to tell. Within days, they were famous. Ships came from human colonies, wanting to see the man who had survived the impossible. News crews from a dozen species requested interviews. Scientists asked permission to study both of them, trying to understand how life energy transfer could wake a brain that technology could not reach. But avoided the attention as much as they could. They had more important things to focus on. For it was learning about the world he had woken into. 42 years of history. New technologies, new alliances, new enemies. The crew he had served with were all dead now, some from old age, some from accidents, some from the dangers of space. His family on Earth had given up hope long ago. They had held a funeral for him. They had moved on. It was hard. Some nights, woke to find him sitting alone in the dark, staring at nothing. She would sit beside him without speaking, just being there until he was ready to talk. "I dreamed about them," he told her one night. "While I was sleeping, I dreamed about my mother's face, my sister's laugh, the smell of my father's cooking. They kept me company in the darkness, but they were not real, they were just memories." "Memories are real," said. "They are pieces of the people we love living on inside us. Your family is still with you. They always will be." He looked at her for a long time. Then he put his arm around her shoulders and pulled her close. "You are my family now," he said, "if that is all right with you." It is more than all right. For the adjustment was different. The life energy transfer had changed her. She was weaker than before and she tired more easily. But there was something else too, a connection to that went beyond words. When he was sad, she felt an echo of his sadness. When he was happy, her own joy seemed to double. They were linked now in a way that neither fully understood. Had been right, the bond was real, and it would last forever. As the weeks passed, the story of the sleeping human and his alien wife spread further. People began to talk about what it meant, not just the science of it, but the meaning. "Humans do not know how to give up," said one commentator on an alien news network. "We have always known this, but now we see that their determination can spread. It can infect others." This woman looked at a hopeless situation and refused to accept it. She became human in the only way that matters. She chose to hope. There were critics too, of course. People who said that had betrayed her species. People who said that humans were dangerous and should not be trusted. But their voices seemed small compared to the growing tide of wonder. Something was changing in the galaxy. The story of N was not just a romance. It was a symbol, a proof that the walls between species could be broken, that love did not care about politics or biology or the length of someone's. On the anniversary of his awakening, they held a ceremony. Not a legal ceremony this time. The marriage that had arranged was already official. This was something else. A chance for them to speak their vows to each other properly, face to face, with both of them awake and willing. The ceremony was held in Haven's central garden, under artificial stars that glowed like the real ones. Humans and aliens stood together, watching. Elder had traveled from Velar Prime to witness it. Even some of his family had come, their disapproval finally softened by time and understanding. Wore a simple human suit. Wore traditional robes, pale blue like the sky of her home world. They stood facing each other, holding hands. "I was lost in the dark for 42 years, said. "I do not remember much of it, Just dreams and shadows and a voice that kept calling me back. Your voice. You were my light. You found me when everyone else had given up. You believed in me when I could not believe in myself. I do not know how to repay that, but I promise to spend the rest of my life trying. Smiled through her tears. You taught me what it means to be brave. Before I met you, I thought courage meant fighting enemies or facing danger, but you showed me a different kind of courage. The courage to hope when hope makes no sense. The courage to love when love might break you. I'm not the same person I was before you came into my life. I am stronger. I am braver. I am more human. She paused, laughing softly. And I would not change any of it. They kissed and the crowd cheered. Later, as the celebration continued around them, and stood alone at the edge of the garden, looking out at the stars. What happens now? Asked. I do not know, said. The galaxy is bigger than I ever imagined. There is so much to see, so much to do. He turned to her with a grin. But I know one thing for sure. What is that? Wherever we go together. Leaned into him, feeling his warmth, his heartbeat, the life that pulsed through both of them now. Together, she agreed. And somewhere across the galaxy, the story kept spreading. The story of a human who refused to die, of an alien who refused to give up, of a love that had bridged the gap between species and proven something that the universe had always known but sometimes forgot. Humans did not just survive. They made others believe that survival was possible. And that was why the galaxy would never forget them.